All right, hi, welcome. This is Diana Rendina, and I'm going to be talking about using Instagram as a tool to connect with your school community. Instagram has been a huge tool for me in terms of connecting with my students and with the community in my school. And I'm going to share some things with you that will hopefully help you to use that as well. So just to give you a little bit of background about me, my name is Diana Rendina. Like I said, I am the teacher librarian at Tampa Preparatory School, which is a 6 through 12 independent school in Tampa, Florida. Before that, I was the librarian at Stewart Middle Magnet School from 2010 to 2017. I blog at renovatedlearning.com. In 2016, I was the ISTE Outstanding Young Educator, and I've written 2 books, Reimagining Library Spaces, Transform Your Space on Any Budget, and Challenge-Based Learning in the School Library Makerspace. So I want to start off with just getting started. I realize that you may or may not already have an account for your school library. So I'm just going to give some kind of advice as you are getting ready and getting started with Instagram. First thing is to consider if you want to have a personal account or a school account. This really has a lot to do with your school's social media policies. This is more and more districts and schools are creating clear policies now, which is really good. When Instagram first came out, there wasn't a lot of good information, but you have to consider what your school is okay with and make sure that you are communicating with your school and your district. So in some cases at Stewart, there wasn't really a social media policy. So I did a personal account where I would share about things for the library. So I used my own personal email address. I used my name. For my current school, Tampa Prep, we have pretty clear social media policies, and all social media channels related to the school, the login information is kept with the school. So for my school now, I have a separate account that's just for the library, which is separate from my personal account. So know your school's policies, make sure that you're aware of them. If you don't know, ask, because you want to make sure that you're doing everything on the up and up. And of course, with all of them, you still probably want to have that disclaimer of who's doing the posts and that the opinions are your own. For student faces, make sure you know what the social media policies are on that. Some schools do blanket permission where you can post student faces on social media. Some schools, it's student by student. Make sure you know the rules on that and check if you're not sure, or if you ever just want to like play it safe, then just try to avoid faces. You can take a lot of really creative photos without showing faces, shooting over the student's shoulder, taking pictures of their hands working on a project, having a book in front of their face. There's lots of options to protect student privacy if you are not allowed to show student faces on social media, or if you're unsure of whether or not it's okay. When you are taking pictures, make sure you always model digital citizenship. Anytime I take a picture of a student, I always ask them before I post, like, are you cool with me posting this on social media? Are you cool with this going on Instagram? And usually kids are fine with it, but some kids don't want to have their picture posted. So I always check just to make sure, because I don't want to violate anyone's right to privacy. So these are just some things to think about as you are getting started with your Instagram account. And there's other things to think about too, making sure that you have a good profile picture, a good description of your profile. You want to link to your school library website in your profile. Those are all these kind of things as you're setting it up, you want to make sure to do. And of course, you're going to want to be following a lot of other school librarians and different accounts like that. Once you have got your Instagram going, you want to market it. You want to make sure that you are getting your school aware of your program, that your community is aware of your program. So if your school or your district have hashtags, which more and more of them are starting to create hashtags now specific to their schools, use those hashtags in your post. That will get attention of those in your community, and it also shows that you're making sure to show that you're a part of the community. If there are other accounts at your school, like if there's a school-wide Instagram account, or if you have a district Instagram account or something like that, always tag other school accounts so that way they get little notifications that you're posting stuff. Another thing I recommend for marketing, which I'm going to show in a second, is making and in real life Instagram display. So when you have all these different posts on Instagram, not everyone is going to have an Instagram account, but you still want them to be a part of it. So I like to use a bulletin board, or in some cases we have slideshows that go on the TVs in the hallways. So I will make a little display on there that shows some of the recent Instagram posts. And that's another great way to make people aware of the fact that, hey, the library has an Instagram. And one of the things I think is a really powerful use of Instagram is that it allows you to make a visual record of your library program. One of my favorite things is to just go and scroll back through my old posts and just look at where we've been and where we've come from. It's a really good way to kind of keep a record of things and to show visually what it is that's going on in your library. So it's a super fantastic tool. This is one of my in real life Instagram bulletin boards. Again, this was pretty simple, just a bulletin board in the hallway. I printed out some of my pictures from my posts on a color printer. I made that fancy little banner up at the top. And then I would just change out the pictures as I took new ones. So this was an easy way to just make it accessible to everyone in my school, regardless of whether or not they have an Instagram account. We actually got rid of our physical bulletin boards this past year, and now we just have a slideshow going in the lobby. So I've switched to making a slide of my Instagram. And so again, I'll update the slide periodically with new photos and different things that are going on in the library. And the other cool thing about this is that I have that QR code on there. So it's really easy for someone to scan that QR code and go to our library Instagram page, and then they can follow us from there. So that gives you a little bit of just kind of basic advice on getting started. And there's so much more that you could go into depth on, and I'm not going to get too into the weeds. But I will mention that in the resources at the end of this presentation, I've got links to a couple of posts that I've done on Instagram on my blog. And one of those has links to some AASL sessions that go really, really in depth on just the nitty gritty of Instagram and how to use it and who to follow. And they've got really good resources on there. So I highly recommend checking out those. If you are an AASL member, then you can access those for free. So those are some really good presentations. We're going to switch gears a little bit now, and I'm going to talk about 20 different post ideas for ways that you can use Instagram to promote your library. First, it's kind of the most obvious, but it's definitely one of the ones I use the most: promoting books. Putting together a nice stack of books, taking a picture. In this case, it was National Poetry Month, so I took pictures of novels in verse. I listed out the titles, I added a bunch of relevant hashtags, and that was a way to promote books, to promote reading, and to get my students excited. One thing I do want to mention, since I'm shooting on an iPhone, if you have an iPhone and it's one of the newer ones, portrait mode is what you can do to get that nice kind of blurry background. It's kind of imitating what traditional cameras do with kind of an aperture that's set to around like 3 or 4. But with portrait mode, you can do it pretty simply. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it can create some really nice pictures. So posts to promote books, that's definitely one of the biggest ones. And it's so easy, just taking a picture of a book, adding some stuff about it, make it look nice, you're good to go. Another way to promote books is adding book quote graphics. I like to mix up my Instagram feed with photos and graphics. So I will design these little graphics in Canva, and I like doing little ones that just have a quote from a book. So this one page will have the quote from the book, and then if you scroll through, you'll see the cover of the book. And so I do these periodically, and then in the caption, I include the quote, and then I describe a little bit about the book. And this is another great way to promote different things. It's a way to catch the reader's attention. They see this quote and it's kind of interesting. Now they want to go read the book. So that's another great way to promote your library and to promote reading and a love of reading through your Instagram account. Instagram's obviously a great place for recognizing different special events, different holidays. when you've got things like, in this case, it's Earth Day, so I've just got a couple of books related to the environment, nice little house plant. That could be holidays, like we did a post for Ramadan, and I had several books related to Muslim characters and Muslim culture. You could use this for National Selfie Day and take a selfie. So it can be anywhere from like just fun to serious, National Take a Picture of Your Cat Day. You've got a picture of your cat. There's all kinds of like fun holidays out there. So just recognizing different holidays, different events, obviously with things like Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, different things like that are great opportunities to market some of the books you have in your library and maybe talk about programs and things you have going on. Along those same lines, Instagram is a great place to highlight diverse books in your library. In this case, I did another one of those graphics in Canva where I just took covers from several books. In this case, these are books that we have as ebooks on Sora that feature Native American authors and characters. And I did this for Native American Heritage Month so that students could be aware of some of the different resources we have in our library. So it's another great way to just feature some books, especially ebooks, because students get to those pretty quickly, and just let them know what you have available. Advertise new books. One of my favorite ways of using time lapse, which is one of my favorite Instagram tools, is putting a stack of books, and I'll just do a time lapse of me stacking the books and showing the covers anytime we get a shipment of new books in. So every month we get a Junior Library Guild shipment. I take a picture or I do a little video, and I just let students know that we have new books available. Same thing when we get bigger shipments of books in. Sometimes I'll make a stop motion video of me unpacking the books and putting them on a cart. Whatever you can do just to let students know that new books are there. It's a good way to build excitement and engagement. And also for your parents and your teachers, it's another great way to show that the library is constantly adding new things. You can use your Instagram to highlight genres. Our fiction section is genrefied, and I like to every once in a while just feature a specific genre and feature a bunch of books from that genre. In this case, we had a Fall in Love with a Good Book display going from our relationships and romance section. And so I just used this post to highlight some really great titles. And it was just kind of a quick, make a little video, show all of the covers of the books. And that was a way to advertise to students that we had this section in our library. When you create new sections, if you create new displays or you add new sections to your library, Instagram is a great way to advertise that. Last year, we started a manga section in our library. It's very small, but we are adding more and more. And I just took a picture of it, posted that on Instagram, and students were super, super excited to hear that we had started a manga section. They were really eager to see more of the books there. Bookface is another classic. I did not originate this idea. I have a link to an article about the origins of it in my resources posts. But the idea basically is you find a book with a picture of a face on it and you pose with it so it looks like that's your face. Bookface poses are really fun. You can engage students and have students do book faces in your library. And it's just kind of a fun way to get students to look at books in new ways and advertise books that might not always get advertised. Instagram is a really good way to share library programs. Every time we have a program going on in our makerspace, anytime we have an author visit or anything going on in the library, if we have a student tutoring session after school, whatever's happening in the library, I'm taking pictures and I'm posting it on Instagram. And it's just a great way to constantly show all the different things that are happening. The library is a constantly vibrant place where there's different things going on every day. And you want to show that and highlight that so that your community can see what's going on in your space. Use your Instagram to recognize student achievements. Our Battle of the Books team was the champion. We're the champions for the competition this year, so I made sure to highlight that. in part because I wanted to recognize this group of students because they did an amazing job studying and preparing for this competition, but also because I wanted to make sure that our community knows that we have this program going on, that these kids are reading the 15 Sunshine State Young Readers Award books, and they're planning for it, and they're preparing and doing these things. And also to kind of advertise that we have books available for next year's list on Sora already. Posts like this are a really great way to get your community excited about what's happening in your library. And a lot of these kids, their parents follow my Instagram account too, and they were super excited. They were following along with the posts when I would post pictures of us like practicing and getting ready for the competition. I posted the stories during the competition. And so for the parents who weren't able to be there, that was a great way for them to keep up with what was happening. Feature special events. Even if you aren't necessarily the one organizing the event, if there is a special event happening in your library or a special event happening around school, take pictures of it. In this case, we had one of our kind of annual middle school events where students participate in different kind of games and challenges. And a lot of those take place in the library. So throughout the day, as I was helping and volunteering with the event, I would take pictures and I was posting them to our account. That's another way to show that you're a part of the greater school community and you're not just doing your library things, but you're also doing other things that involve other aspects of the school. When you create a physical display, whether it's a bulletin board or a new book display, take a picture and post it. It's another great way to take the physical and make it digital, and to share things in your library, your school and library space that people might not necessarily see if they're not on campus. You know, I might not have parents come by the library, but now they can see this picture and they'll know that we have this display up. Take selfies. I kind of am always a little bit averse to taking pictures of myself, honestly. I'm not a very good millennial in that way. But students really like connecting with your face. And your community wants to connect with your face. They want to see who it is behind the camera. So try to take selfies of you doing different things throughout the school day, whether that's taking a cart of books down to students, or if you're working on inventory, take a picture of yourself doing inventory. Whatever it is that you're doing, if you have bus duty, take a selfie doing bus duty. It's a way to show and share what it is that you do at school. And it's a way to put a human face to the library, which is a really important way to help students and your community connect with what you're doing. Another great way to connect with your community is talk about the books that you're reading. Sometimes it might just be a quick picture. I'll take a picture of the book on my desk and write up a little caption about it. Sometimes I get a little more formal and I make a graphic like this where I feature several recent titles I've been reading. But whatever it is, share with your community what you're reading. This is, you know, just like we do on our doors of our classrooms where we have a picture of the book cover and maybe a little blurb about the book. Share about the books that you're reading on your Instagram account. Another great use of Instagram is sharing your stats as a tool for advocacy. When I do my stats at the end of the year and I look at how many books were checked out and what different programs we did, I create slides for Instagram and I share them. And I make sure to write up just how significant this is. You know, in this case, our circulation went up over 100%, and we had a huge increase in ebooks checkouts. We did a ton of after school Maker Day events. I visited a ton of classes throughout the year. And so this was a way for me to share with our community, this is the stuff that goes on in our library. You know, it's not just this quiet space where people like sit and studiously read and that's all they do. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's a lot more that happens than just that. So use your Instagram as an advocacy tool. Share what's happening. Share how many books you're checking out. I've seen some school libraries that'll share every month how many books were checked out that month. And it's just a really cool way for them to show how students are engaged in their library space. This one's kind of fun, but join in on the memes. If there are memes going on and there's a way that it kind of fits in with your library, it's just fun to do. In this case, we took advantage of the Bernie Sanders meme and I found a little meme generator that would take the picture of him and put it onto a photo. So I just stuck him in my library. And it's just a cute little fun thing, but this was one of the most popular posts that I posted on Instagram that year. The students in my community just loved it. So join in on the memes, you know, have some fun with it. You want to make it interesting, you want to engage. The only thing I would caution here is make sure that it's current. If you're using memes that are kind of older, some students will find that entertaining, but some will find it really dated. So if you're ever not sure if a meme is like going to connect with your students, just ask a few of them. And in general, I find that students will be pretty brutally honest about this. Share your professional life. If you go to conferences, take a picture of you at a conference. If you're presenting, take a picture of that. If it's presenting a webinar, take a picture of you presenting at your webinar. Whatever it is, if you're reading a book for professional development or you're attending a workshop, anytime you're doing anything professional, especially when it's outside of school, take a picture and share it. This is a way to advocate for yourself as a professional in your school library, and to show again that your work is not limited just to your library space, but you are also taking your work outside of that space and contributing to the greater community. Share your teacher PD. If you organize a professional development event in your library for your teachers, take pictures and share what you're doing. If you present to your teachers about something, take pictures of that. Parents especially love seeing this. I got so many likes and comments from school parents who follow my account when I posted this one. And it was just a simple book tasting event that I did for teachers where they got to look at possible summer reading books. It's simple, again, just take a few pictures when you have things going on. You're already doing these things anyhow, and then just add them to your Instagram account. And that's a great way to keep your community aware of what's going on. If you visit bookstores, take pictures. When I'm on break or when I'm traveling, or just if it's on the weekend and I'm going to my local indie bookstore, I take a picture and I will usually tag the bookstore in the picture as well. Again, it's just a way to show more engagement in reading, show engagement in books, and get your students excited. And sharing a little bit of your life outside of school, which is always nice. I'm a big fan of using Instagram stories and using highlights as a way to organize them. Now, this is a little bit more in depth. So if you're like totally lost, you can just even honestly Google like how to use Instagram highlights, but it's pretty simple. Stories are where you just create little quick stories. They usually last on your account, I think, for like 24 hours. And you can add text, you can add little emojis and cute things like that. So what I will do is I will take stories of different things that are going on. Like when we do our maker days after school, I'll do pictures each day of like little short videos or pictures of my students' projects. And then I'll use highlights to gather all of those stories together. So even though the stories would normally disappear after 24 hours, when you add them to a highlight, they can stay there. So what's nice about this is you can go on my Instagram account and look at our maker days highlights and just kind of scroll through them, and you'll see all these different pictures of projects that we did during our maker days. And as I was just explaining, stories is a really great way to just share what's happening. I will use stories all the time if I have an event going on, if there's maybe just something that's kind of fun happening, if I want to share a post that someone else did and I think that that's a really great post, I will use stories and just share that out real quick. And so not all of my stories go into highlights. Sometimes they're just kind of quick one-off things. But a lot of them I will use and collect in highlights. There's a few tools that I really love to use with Instagram, and they do a lot to help make it easier to use, make it more time efficient, and also just make it more beautiful. One of the most basic things is to get yourself a selfie stick or a tripod, preferably both. In the resources post, I have a link to one that does both. That's highly recommended. But having something to make it easier to take pictures, especially a tripod, because that'll help you with time lapses and different things like that, or taking pictures where you're included in the picture. But this is a really helpful tool that I honestly resisted getting for a long time. But once I did, it really made it a lot easier to take good pictures. Two other tools that I really like are Hyperlapse and Boomerang. These used to be separate apps, but Instagram has removed them from the App Store. So if you still have them, they still work. If you don't, the way that my understanding of it is you can take a live picture with your Apple iPhone and it'll work as a boomerang, which does that kind of like back and forth picture. It's really fun. And Hyperlapse, you can do a time-lapse photo and it will do that as well. So either of those are options, but either way, doing time-lapse photos, adding videos is a fun way to kind of make your Instagram account more interesting and increase engagement. Canva is a big one for me. I love Canva. I use Canva all the time for creating different graphics and things. I like to create templates, so I will just kind of have a set template and reuse it over and over again. It saves me time as I'm designing things, and it gives a nice consistent aesthetic to my Instagram account. I personally have a Canva Pro account because I use it for my blog as well, but they have free Canva for Education accounts. So if you're an educator, you can sign up for that using your school email address and it's free. And so I highly recommend Canva. Definitely one of my favorite tools for graphic design. And the last tool I want to recommend is Planoly, which might be new to some of you. Planoly is an online site that you can sign up for. If you're just using one social media account, it is free, up to a certain number of posts per month, but I've never hit that limit before. And what it does is it lets you schedule your Instagram posts in advance. So you can see on the left side of there, I can see my feed. The posts that have the little blue S means that they're scheduled. Once that S turns red, that means that it's actually past the scheduled point. If it's got that little pink U, that means that it's unscheduled. So I haven't set a day and time for it yet. But what I love to do with Planoly is I will batch schedule my Instagram posts. I like to have about 3 or so go out each week on my school Instagram. And so I'll sit down on a Friday and I'll just spend, 20, 30 minutes going on Planoly and I'll upload the photos. I'll type up my captions. I like this because I can do it on my desktop, so I can type on a keyboard and not on my phone. Add in my little emojis and stuff, my hashtags. It lets you save banks of hashtags. So if you frequently use like librarians follow librarians, librarians of Instagram, Bookstagram, you don't have to type out each one every time. You can just add that batch of hashtags. So it saves you so much time and it lets you create a really nice, consistent aesthetic. So I will do this and I will schedule my posts like a couple of weeks in advance. And then on my phone, when it's time for that post, I just get a notification. I click that notification, it copies the caption. I upload the picture to Instagram, I paste the caption and it posts. So it makes life a lot easier. It lets you kind of maintain a really nice look for your account and it just saves time. It saves so much time. So I'm not having to just random haphazardly throughout the day stop what I'm doing and type up an Instagram caption. I can be more in the moment in my library, and then later I can go and schedule things. So highly recommend Planoly. If you have not used that before, it is a game changer for Instagram. So that is all of my resources, all of my slides. So if you go to my website, renovatedlearning.com, and you go to my presentations page, there is a link there for resources. In this case, the resources for this are with ISTE Live 2022, because this is for the ISTE Live Librarians Playground. So if you go to, again, here it is here, and there's a QR code that takes you there, renovatedlearning.com/presentations. That has a link to my slides. It has a link to all of my resources that I mentioned, different blog posts, that selfie stick I was talking about. Any other resources related to this post are there. So thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I am at Diana L. Rendina. My personal Instagram account is also at Diana L. Rendina. My school Instagram is at TPrep Library. That's TPREP Library. And you can also use my contact form on my blog if you want to reach out and have any questions. So thank you very much.